Namaste, hello, Sat Sri Akal. This is Ranjit Quatra, and you're watching Bharat Frontliners, a platform where stories of courage, conviction, and reinvention take center stage. Some lives move in straight lines, others unfold like a series of bold detours, each turn demanding courage, curiosity, and conviction. Tonight's conversation is about a woman who refused to be confined by circumstance, age, or expectation. From rebuilding life as a single mother to shaping businesses, mentoring founders, stepping onto film sets in her 60s, and continuing to learn, explore, and create. Her journey reminds us that reinvention is not an exception, it is a choice. Geeta Modi, a life that does not fit neatly into a resume. It reads more like a living manuscript, written in chapters of grit, risk, reinvention, and grace. She is an entrepreneur who built and exited ventures, a mentor who shapes futures, an actor who challenged age narratives, and a creator who believes life is meant to be lived expansively. This is not a story about starting over. It is a story about never stopping. This is a conversation about courage without deadlines and a life lived beyond labels. Geeta, welcome to Bharat Frontliners.
Wow, thank you for having me. It was amazing to hear so much and such good about me.
Shall we begin, Geeta?
Let's do this.
Okay. So, you rebuilt your life as a single mother at a time when circumstances could have easily broken you, when everything around you felt uncertain. What was the inner voice that kept you standing?
So, I've always listened to this inner voice that you talk about. I think all of us have that little nagging little voice which keeps talking to you. I love that voice. I still listen to it. I think it has guided me all through, and it has always made me take the correct decisions, because that was the voice, when I felt down, when I felt low, it kept telling me, no, only you can do it. You are responsible for your child. You are responsible for your future. You have to make your parents proud. So many people are depending upon you, and so many people are waiting to see you fail. You can't let that happen. So, that little nagging thing, it was not loud shouting noise, that little thing which kept hitting on. And then, that just gave me that moment when I felt that, okay, I think I should listen to this and develop courage. Let me develop some sort of a demeanor that just comes forward in front of people and show up. So courage for me was not like, physical strength or anything like that. Courage and strength for me was showing up every day, whether there were failures, whether there were adversities, whether there were issues, there were problems. Just show up, face, think calmly, and think what next. I think this gave me a lot of resilience. And yeah.
Yeah. That makes a huge difference, when everything starts coming out from your heart and your head. And that is when things start happening.
True.
Many people survive hardship, but very few transform it into momentum. Was there a moment when you realized that merely surviving was not enough, that you wanted more from life?
Yeah. You know what? I started my work journey with a small 2,500 square feet gym. Now, even the members who came to my gym would all come in their cars, and I was commuting in an auto rickshaw at that time. I was living in a dingy house of one bedroom where there was barely any natural light. Like I had to put on the electricity 24/7. And when I used to go home every evening from work, I used to think, looking at that fleet of cars standing below my gym, and I'm waiting for an auto, and there are sometimes members coming and saying, oh, madam, can we give you a lift? And I just thought, I can't take this. There has to be more. I mean, my life cannot be like this. I need it. I need something more. And that just became like my purpose for living. So it was like then I wanted a nicer house, a car, then a bigger car, then I wanted vacations, I wanted trips, and then I wanted better holidays and a better way to travel. And slowly luxuries just became necessities and I didn't even realize that, I had traveled all this way and reached there with that one purpose and that one thing, in my mind that life has to get better for me and my daughter. And that was just it. I think that moment when I was standing down waiting for an auto and looking at that fleet of cars below my gym, that was a turning point.
Wow. Wow. Becoming South Gujarat's first Reebok certified trainer was a pioneering step. Did you feel supported? What kind of pushback did you face, and how did you learn to quiet the noise around you?
So I first of all thought of becoming the Reebok trainer because I had a partner in business whom I literally threw out, and then I had a gym to handle, and I was not qualified. So I was 45, and I thought I can't take on something without actually being qualified to do it. So I thought I should do it and should do it from the best place. I have seen, in the gyms around me at that point of time in Surat, because I live in Surat, they were that Akhada trained trainers. Like, they used to be trained from Akhadas and then they used to train the other trainers down the line and they were good, but they lacked refinement. They lacked, sometimes the theories were also off, like on supplements and on diet and nutrition and all. So there was something lacking. There were also a couple of them who had gone to Reebok in Mumbai, and but they never took the whole certification or got themselves that credibility of that certification. They just started working. Okay, we are Reebok certified, and started running, training people in the gym, which is I don't believe is correct until you're certified and you're authorized to do it. So I remember working so hard. I used to go every weekend to Mumbai. And when the exams came, my whole staff at my hotel would think, oh, madam ko exams hai, madam ko exams. It was like, getting back to school. And I gave my exams. I passed it. We were just 6 of us out of the 28 who passed these exams. And then when I got back, the support was sort of mixed. There are always cheerleaders and then there are always leg pullers. That is going to happen everywhere.
Yeah.
But they never questioned my seriousness because I did this at 45 and I got the certificate. And to quieten the noise, I can say, I finally got Reebok to Surat. I got them to my gym. I got them to do the course here in Surat for the people who needed it and who couldn't go there. So I think then they all understood that I was actually trying to make things better. There were 26 people who enrolled, they took the certification, and I was happy, and I think everybody was happy.
Brilliant story. So, from gyms to restaurants to even a school, you built spaces where people rely on your vision. When you walk into a room full of people depending on you, what does leadership truly mean to you in that moment?
Well, leadership at any moment, at any moment, it's like an emotional responsibility. I feel that people who look up at you as a leader, they don't just look up at you for decisions or something like that. They look up at you because they look at stability. They look at, examples of courage, of resilience, of strength, of, doing, achieving, trying and getting things to become better. So you always become the person who leads things and not somebody who follows others. So I always feel that this becomes a very big emotional responsibility. And whereas entering a room full of people, I feel whenever I enter and if people don't know me over there, I'm sure when I leave the room, they're never going to forget me. I make sure of that.
Excellent job you do. At an age when society expects women to slow down, you chose to enroll at the New York Film Academy. Take us through that phase and what prompted that decision and what did that journey teach you about yourself?
Yeah, what a phase that was. Actually, Ranji, when I was in school and college, I was quite artistic. I used to love taking part in those musical choirs and then plays and, do needlework and do painting and crafting. And I used to do a lot of fabric painting. I remember making my whole trousseau with, different types of articles painted by my own
Wow.
so
Wow.
I was quite artistic. But then when life happened and then I got into business and everything became like very different. It was all about balance sheets and figures and profit and loss and the whole world changed, So there was always that little thing in my head that no, let me get back to doing something artistic, but something challenging, something that will even use my brains, not just sit and do some needlework or whatever, and think
Yeah.
something else.
So some
So
creative talent.
yeah, some creative thing. And I was always fascinated by the film industry. I always thought that, wow, it's amazing to get into somebody else's, role, get into somebody else's head, somebody else's character and play it. And what an amazing thing that is. So I think that was all. I thought, let me just do this. There was a point of time when I was around 59 years of age. I'm 65 now. At 59 years of age, I thought I'm going to learn it from the best and let me enroll with New York Film Academy. Googled and found that, and then I realized I had to go as a student on a student visa, and then I stayed there as a paying guest, and I went to college where students were younger than me, teachers were younger than me. I mean, that was the funniest. Then that was so much fun. But going there, it taught me such an amazing that amazing lessons of life that you'd say. Looking at these young actors, how much of themselves they put into that role, how much of themselves they get involved in that character, the way they do the methodical acting process. It was lovely to listen and see from each one because for me it was a different world from my corporate world. This was an absolute opposite. So it was like my left and right brain working, so I felt happy. Yes, something which one doctor I heard on YouTube saying that you should use both your brains, otherwise, you won't be balanced and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But this was so much fun. So I really learned a lot of humility from these people. I mean, appreciation of the craft, what actually acting is. That all I learned only as I went along the way, trying to learn it myself.
Yeah, and there's one thing about U.S. education. Their education system is very, very structured. One thing
Correct.
leading to another. So that's something I
Yes.
really love about their way of teaching. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
it was lovely, every weekend, all the different departments would get together and make a film. So the music department and the script writer and the producer and the direction department. And then they would call us actors to audition and then they would all get together and make a film on Saturday, Sunday. It was so much fun. I mean, I've never had so much fun in my life. It was amazing.
Yeah. Geeta, you've traveled to over 55 countries, absorbing cultures far removed from your own. How has this global exposure reshaped your understanding of success, failure, and even identity?
Traveling, what a passion that is for me. I think I'm ever so grateful for getting all these opportunities to going to these wonderful destinations which people have never heard of. I mean, doing Antarctica, I did all the seven continents. And it was, I mean, that experiences which I've had are surreal. So I believe, traveling solo is very important. Along with traveling, you travel with your family and friends and all that. But just joining an unknown group where you just don't know anybody. They are there, you never knew of their existence before, but you join them. And then the lessons that you get to learn, the perspectives, their perceptions of success, failure, identity, life, problems, issues, they are so different, so varied. And you just wonder, oh my God, I never thought of it like this. I never thought this could be, understood this way. So whenever you're sitting with absolute strangers, you become yourself. You have nothing to prove or nothing to show off to because they don't know you. And I don't know if you'll ever meet them again. So, you're absolutely in your element as you are. And you're talking to them, understanding. It becomes like a mirror, to you of what you can become in front of people you just don't know.
Mm.
and and the lessons they teach you, I've seen people having so little but living such rich lives, and
Mm.
people who have everything are empty. I mean, all these realizations come when I'm sitting, traveling alone, and sitting and eating alone in a cafe. You just find the food so much more different. You can feel that taste, you can feel the buzzing of that city, the hustle, bustle, the environment. That whole area just comes to such a life in your head and in your skin, and you can literally feel all that, in yourself. And I hate taking pictures at that point of time. I just want to remember that feeling. I just want to remember that experience more than any pictures.
Yeah, just
So
have it
I
inside
think
your heart.
just have it in you. So I
Yeah.
think identity, of course, is very subjective, but it's very contextual. Like with every context, the identity sort of changes. And I've had amazing learnings from these solo tours, especially when I'm traveling and trying to find my way, through their local transport by buses or train. At that time, I feel, oh my God, I can conquer the world. I did this in a foreign land with no help. And, if I could do this, I can do anything. And it's crazy. I talk to myself. I talk to that stupid inner voice, and then I'm happy.
As past president of Rotary and vice president of TIE Surat, you mentor startups and young founders. What mindset strength impresses you most in the next generation, and what recurring flaw holds them back?
Yeah, these youngsters, oh my God, we call them the millennials or whatever, the alpha millennials. I don't know what terms have come now. I just can't imagine, and what terms are going to come further. But these youngsters, they are in such a hurry. They start so young. They have amazing ideas. I love their confidence, their zeal, their zest, their energy. They just want to conquer it all. They want to get it all. They want to go ahead with all the little things which is there in their brains. What they see suddenly on an internet, some point they have seen and something they have understood and develop something, and then they want to put it into place and whatnot. I think it is wonderful to have all this energy and all this, enthusiasm and all that. But the main thing is what they lack is patience. I think, they sort of get recognition before they get patience and resilience. They get visibility before they have developed that strength and courage and confidence for a proper business person. So this is where I feel that they need to slow down once they get in a particular pace. And we always guide them that way, we always tell them, just have the patience to wait and watch and go step by step. I've seen founders start companies, start earning in crores without even having a structure to their company, without having even a simple website in their company. I mean, I've had such weird examples I've seen, and these people are doing wonderful. So it's lovely to encourage them on one side, but at the same time, we have to guide them into the right direction. I think that's how the world is now, and that's what a mentor does.
Brilliant. Your book, Your Best Is Yet to Come, challenges how society views midlife, especially for women. Why do you think this phase is so often framed as a decline rather than a powerful new beginning?
Yeah, that's how our society is at times. I see women in their midlife, late 40s, early 50s, they are finally getting there. They have become, they have finished with all their responsibilities. They have earned the confidence. They have made all their mistakes and they have learned through all their lessons. And they are actually coming into their proper being. And they're actually becoming what they had, started off in the beginning with. And then the world just wants you to fade. Your society just wants you to, sort of give you roles of a grandmother and a mother-in-law, and then you start, looking at all those things. Oh, I want to spend time with my grandchildren. Of course, you want to spend time, but that doesn't mean that it should take away from your life. That doesn't mean that you spend the whole day doing just that. So I've seen ladies trying to live lives through their children, through their family. through the people around them, but they stop doing that after they have reached that stage when they can do. So the book was mainly to tell them that this is the phase when you take your pivot, when you do what you had never, what you never did, what you wanted to do maybe when you were younger. Maybe life happened to you and you couldn't. Maybe you got pregnant, you got married, whatever, and you didn't do it. Do it now. You have the time. You have got so much of opportunities now, and so much of information is available everywhere. अभी हम कुछ छोटा सा गूगल कर लेते हैं तो मिल जाता है. एक रेसिपी चाहिए तो मिल जाती है. पहले we used to call up, talk to our friends, ask them, oh, how does your mother make this? Nothing. Just take a reel, 1 second, 10 seconds, 20 seconds reel, and you know how to make a bread. It's as easy as that now. So I want women, to not give up their power, not give up their passions, and do things which is, there in their head, which is going to make them an identity, which is going to leave a mark somewhere.
Very impressive. Very impressive. An entrepreneur, actor, mentor, creator, philanthropist. Of all these roles, which one feels most complete to you and why?
I think it would be creator. I just love to create, and I love to create something from nothing or from very little. It's so amazing to see when you create something from nothing, and then it starts blooming, growing, other people get involved, they start blooming, growing, and then it becomes bigger and better, and more people come in, and there is more learnings, and things are becoming so much more known and popular, and it's just getting established, and I mean, that feeling is just amazing. So I think I'll always choose to be a creator.
You often say life isn't meant to be lived in lanes or labels. What do we lose when we try to fit ourselves into boxes that feel safe but small?
Actually, doing that just limits us. We stop giving permission to ourselves to go and succeed. We stop giving permission to ourselves to go and explore, to go and see at least what is out there, to go and try and just check out. If you cannot do something, at least check it out, whether it's there for you or no. So I think when you limit yourself, you become so and so, you become one person, and I don't think humans were meant to be like a linear sort of a personality. They have to be multidimensional. There have to be layers to you. That makes you interesting. That makes you a person where people want to come and talk to you. They want to listen to you. They want to interact with you. Because you have got so many layers, you have got so much to share, so much to discuss, so much to talk about, so much to inform. And I give a lot of advice. My daughter calls it Geeta Gyan, and that name has stuck,
Yes,
so,
you do a program on Instagram, right?
the time.
Yeah.
I always say, don't care if people want to listen, they listen, but I'm going to be giving my Gyan. So,
Yeah.
I think I've got a lot to say, a lot to share. So I would never want to limit myself. I would just want others also to give themselves permission. Just go, fly, try it.
When people look back at Geeta Modi 20 years from now, what do you hope they feel, not just remember?
I hope they feel that they were seen, they were heard, they were understood when they interacted with me. I want them to remember me that way. Because when I see these young mentors, I mean the young mentees whom we mentor, there are times when, maybe in their own family, they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard. They feel they are so misunderstood. People just say, अबे ये क्या कर रहा है, अभी छोड़ दो, especially by females, अभी बच्चे भी हो गए, अभी इसको रहने दो, अभी इस पर focus करो.
Yeah.
There are so many things which we hear from people, and then I always think that no, I want to hear her story. I want to hear what she's thinking. I want to hear what she's feeling. I want to understand where she comes from. So I wish they remember me that way. 20 years from now, if they feel that she was the one who kept reinventing herself, if she could do it, we can do it too. And I hope they really do it.
Long live Geeta Modi.
Thank you.
And finally, as someone who believes the best chapter is always the next, what does the next chapter look like for you?
I think I've never really sort of manifested chapters in my life. I've manifested a lot of things. I mean, the life or the lifestyle which I have now, I have definitely manifested it. But I've never manifested the next chapter. I believe in the power of possibility. I believe in the power of the universe. I believe in the power of God. I believe in the power of my parents who are not with me anymore, but they are out there looking at me. So I just believe that the best things are going to come and they are just going to be so awesome. It could just be a smallest thing. And nowadays I get excited about everything. Like the show, oh lovely, I'm going to do it, and I'm so excited about it. And or even if it's just a simple project somebody comes up with, let's do it. Okay, let's do it. Let's try it. My daughter says, "Mom, you feel FOMO, you feel you're going to be left out. You just want to do everything." I said, yeah, I want to do. Let me try. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You have nothing to lose. But
Yeah.
you should always try. So I think the best chapters are waiting, and you can just keep trying. You can just keep, being there, present, and experiencing it, and seeing if it's going to work for you or no. If it doesn't, you have really nothing to lose. And if it does, well, that would be another chapter and another story and another success. So it's wonderful.
Geeta Modi's journey reminds us that life is not a single act. It is a series of reinventions. That courage does not expire with age. And that curiosity, when protected, can keep a person forever young. Her story tells us this: you don't need permission to begin again. You don't need labels to validate your worth. And you don't need to slow down just because the world expects you to. Because sometimes the most powerful chapters are not the first ones we write, but the ones we dare to write next. Thank you, Geeta, for joining me in this honest and inspiring conversation on Bharat Frontliners.
Thank you, Ranji, for having me. It was lovely talking to you.
I'm Ranjit Quatra. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous.